This episode we're going to work on the Backbox panel. That's the panel that goes into the Backbox. It has all of our scoring reels and our switches, some more switches, oh yay, and 2 more steppers. We're going to get this all cleaned up, and we'll go over a few things while we're working on it and getting it cleaned up to make sure. I noticed this was, I mentioned this in the, I don't know, second episode I think it was, that here we have one of our switches. This are the score resets. These 2 relays here are for the score reset. And this one, as you can see, we got 1 wire off. Looks like it was cut and they were trying to figure out where it's supposed to go. And this jumper here should be on the bottom and this wire should be on the top. This is just kind of looped in there. As you can see, it's not even soldered. And our 100-point relay. This will give you a clue as to what's going on with the machine. Looks like one of the 100-point switches was stuck on the play field, causing this to suck in and stay in. And then the coil heats up and chars the paper. So we'll look out for that when we do the playing field. We'll look at all of our switches on our playing field and see if we can find a 100-point switch that's stuck closed. And then we have our 100,000 trip relays. These are interlock relays. These are the ones that when it sucks in, it turns them on, and then at the end of the game, when you restart it, turns them off. This light should light up probably a couple of lights showing that you have 100,000, or that you turned 100,000. Because our scoring reels, you know, we have a dummy 1, because there is no 1 point. And we have 10. And we have our 10s, our 100s, our 1000s, and 10,000s. So after 99,000, you turn over to 100,000, then this relay should kick on for the first player, and then keep going. We have 1 for each player. This is a 4-player machine, so we have 4 of those interlocks. We'll get those cleaned up. This one here, oops, that should be our player select. Yeah, that'll as each player, after the ball drains and it goes to the second player, this one will move up to the second player, so the second player gets his scores. This is our match unit. This is one, or 00 to 90, whatever you want to call it. It's the match unit. This one, all this one does is just constantly turn around. Every time points are scored, it'll move once or a couple of times. So after the game, it's always random as to what the match number is. And we have our credit wheel and unit. And this one, same thing, as you get a credit or put coins in it, which is a little stiff. Yep. So that one we'll have to work on. It doesn't want to retract or put credits on it. There we go. I was using the wrong one. And that puts on credits, and then this one takes them off. And of course we got our Jones plug, the female side, and our scoring reels that we have to clean up, each and individual one. We have to clean up every one of these. There's 4 per player, 4 players. We have 16 that we have to clean. And we'll take one of them apart, and I'll show you how to take them apart and how to clean those ones up. They're not too bad to work on and clean up. So that's everything on here on the back box. That's all of our relays. Just a couple stepper units, our our credit unit. I want to keep calling it the credit union, and it's the credit unit. We'll get it done, and all of our scoring reels. First thing we're going to do is, I think we'll clean up these two stepper units. The player, you can see this one is really stiff. There we go. So we'll get that one cleaned up. We'll get that one cleaned up, and we'll clean up the credit unit too. So I'll pull this up off the panel, and then we'll take a look at it after I get it up. Okay, just like the other ones on the bottom board, I got two screws that hold it down. And you can take the spider off. Putting a little counter pressure on the back side so we don't push that all the way through. And there's our spider. Remember how it come off. This one, it's kind of hard to get it twisted around, but I'm sure somebody could. And then we'll just take a little piece of sandpaper. And get out of your way so you can see what's going on. There, got it all cleaned up. Now we'll take our spider and do the same thing. And just kind of if you're wondering, this is just a little piece of 320. It'll cut through that. If there's old grease on there or what have you, it'll cut through it. Dielectric grease. Coat all those contacts. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a little bit of this grease, and I'm gonna, I don't know if you can see down in there or not, but I'm gonna slide that out, push it back, and then I'm just gonna put a little bit of grease on that. Okay, the problem was somebody had this spring wrapped up too tight, and it was on the other side of the switches, and you couldn't get it past it because the spring was too tight and it was could barely move. So I let it come all the way around and start over again. Took one wind off of it by just letting it run around once. Now you can see we're on player 1, this big one. Let me see if I can get you zoomed in a little bit more. Here we go. The big one right here, that's player 1. And then player 2 moves over, player 3, player 4. And then after that ball drains, it goes, resets it here, and sets it back to player 1. And now we got that. 1, 2, 3, and back to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to 1. So we got that all freed up, and now it's working like it should. That was a problem somewhere for somebody. Instead of just cleaning it up and getting it to work properly, they thought they could just wind put another wind on the spring. All you have to do is unhook this, take this spring off, pull it all the way back around and hook it again. Well, what happens is now the spring's all bound up and it wouldn't let the wheel move far enough. So now that's straightened out. We'll get that screwed back down and move on to our match unit up there. Same as all of them. There's 2 screws that hold it down. And this one's on rubbers since it's moving a lot. This one is moving all the time while you're playing. Ooh. Oh, there's a third one. Okay. This one has a foot on the back side of it. So this one has 3. Come on. No, I don't want the rubber. And of course, drop a washer. Now we can get him up like so. You can see it. You can see these are all the spider here. Like I said, this is the one. This is the match unit, the 0 to 90. I call it a match unit. You know, it's a 00 to 90 unit, step unit. And like I said, as you're playing, this one's constantly moving, changing the numbers. You know, from 00 to 90. So it's constantly shifting on different things that happen in the game. Like it could be, you know, on the 100. It could change on the hundreds. It could change on the tens. Just not sure. That I'm not sure of. But we're gonna do the same thing to this one. Man. And when you put a screw in a plastic shaft, it will swell up at times. And if the screw's been tightened too much, then this is what happens. Before we take that completely off, let's mark this just so we know how that goes back on there. I don't know if this one really matters because of the way it's, you know, there's so many of them. I think you could, come on, I think you could put that on backwards and it would still work the same. But just for GP, we marked it. So we know we put him right back on that way. Same thing, we'll clean up these and all the rivets or all the contacts. You can see where it's been arcing across as it moves. This back screw that was had a rubber on it, and underneath of it was this piece of plastic. I guess it was a shim, but it sure didn't. Now I'm gonna have to find something to shim that up with, because that's not gonna work anymore. And looks like our rubber's all wore out too. But we did get her all cleaned up, and now get my fingers. Now it's working perfect. So let me see if I can find something to shim that up with, because that's sure, I try and tighten that down and that thing's just gonna crush it, what's left of it anyway. So let me see what I can come up with. Okay, rounded up a new rubber bushing for back there, and a nice little standoff. I think that's gonna work good. Let me get the bushing put on it, and we'll get that standoff under it, and then we'll take a look at it and see how it looks, see if that's going to work for us. Okay, there you go. You can see now it's got a nice little platform down there for it to sit on. Those two, now all the bushings are good, and you can see it. It's all rubbified. Alright, now that one's done. Let's see, there's no switches on this to clean up, just was the contacts on the face. Our credit unit just needs a little bit of cleaning up, and yeah, a couple of switches. We'll clean a couple of switches on that, and that one will be done, and then we'll move on to some score reels. I'll go ahead and get that cleaned up. It's pretty much the same thing. All I have to do is just clean some leaf switches on it, and it'll be ready. It seems to be working pretty good, just needs cleaned up a little bit. And then we'll start tearing these down, and I'll show you how we tear those down. Let me get that credit unit done, and then we'll move on to a score reel. Now on the credit reel, there's only two switches on it. There's one that lets it know that there's no more. Well, you have your end of stroke switch too that will quit. You have a switch down there. You can see it goes all the way around. Oh, what are you hitting on? I'm gonna have to tear that down. Yep. Goes all the way around, and it opens that switch right there, telling the machine that it's at max credit. And then it'll come all the way back around, and there's a switch down there, another post down there that opens that switch, telling it that there's no credits on it and not to start a game until credits are put on it. So let me see what the heck's going on here. That sucker's pretty. Thought it was working pretty good, but it's pretty stiff. Yeah, gets a little stiff in there. Alright, let me see if I gotta clean that up. That switch isn't even touching. Nope. So we'll get that adjusted as well. Okay, found out same thing as on this one here. They had the spring wound too tight. Somebody, a lot of people think that the answer to everything is just tighten up the spring. Tighten up the spring. And it was too hard for everything to pull back when it got so far. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this one's set for a 10 game maximum. And she goes back. 1, 2. Just fine. All it was just to clean it up a little bit. You can see I took all the score reels out over here so I could get to the screw instead of taking that one up. That one has nuts down in there holding the credit unit in there, and they're a pain in the butt to try and put back in. So it's easier just to pull your score reels out. That way you can get to the screw, loosen that up, push it back a little bit, put a little bit of grease on it, and away she goes. Now, like I said, this pin right here, if you want, you can adjust these to fewer games. Right now it's on 10. There's a hole right down there is for 5. And then the next one is 15. And then 25. I don't think there's a 20 on it. Maybe up in there somewhere. Nope, no 20. So this is set for 10 game maximum. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'll move this up over to 25. I always let them stay at 25. It just me, I guess. So let me get that moved around, and then I'll show you what it does after I get that moved. Okay, I put the new one in, or put this one in, and what happens is it sticks out too far, and it hits on the spring right here. So I went to my stash, and I found a short one that's actually off of a credit unit. So now when it goes all the way around, it doesn't hit that spring. It goes all the way down, opens the switch, and now we're on 25 games. Come all the way around, opens the switch, and now we're on 0. And now our end of the stroke switch, I call it an end of stroke switch, I don't care. But what this does is when this sucks in the solenoid, sucks in the rod, it pulls and closes that switch, which turns off the solenoid, and it can release and rack up a game. That's what that switch was for, and it wasn't even touching. I'm kind of thinking they may have had this set on some sort of free play, because the switch is down here when there was no games was closed, so that means it was telling the machine that there was games on it, so it just could continue playing. But now it's all the way it should be. It's working like it should, and that's what we want. Okay, now on to the scoring reels. On these score reels, there's a little clip right, I don't know, can you see it? Let me back you up a little bit. There we go. There's a clip right here. You can see. All you do is you push him up, and that whole scoring reel comes up out of there. Let me get you so you can see a little better. Okay, now what we got to do is we take off this, there's this little clip here in the center. Most of the time you can pull him off with your fingers. And we'll take out our 3 little screws holding the reel on. Watch I don't poke you in the nose with the screwdriver. And there's our score reel. We can clean him up now that he's off. There's some of them on this machine that's really filthy. But we'll get them all cleaned up. I'll show you a few of them before and after I clean them. Now on these, you can see how this works. When the solenoid pulls in, this little lever comes back, catches a cog, and pushes it forward. And again, that's all it does to to change the score. And then when you get to 9, what happens, see these 2 switches right down in here. Let me see if I can get, yeah. These 2 switches, you can see this lever here comes back, and when it's on 9, you can see it just opened them. There it opens them. And when it opens them, this is the 10, when it opens, it sends juice over to the 100 and moves it 1 time to whatever. If it's on 1, it'll move it to 2. If you're on 9, this will just move it to 1. Go all the way around again, and same thing. On 9, that opens, and then telling the next score unit that it needs to turn 1 time to 2. And then the same thing, you have your end of stroke switch right down in here. When the solenoid comes back, and then there, when it comes back, it opens, it turns off the coil, and then it moves forward. Now sometimes these little springs get a little goofy. They're not strong enough anymore to pull your, see, and it needs to pull it just a little bit. So we'll get this cleaned up, and hopefully we can put just a little dab of grease on here and lube it up a little bit, and we won't have to mess with our spring. Now to get this guy out of here, it's kind of a pain. Most of the time you don't really need to. Take our spring off, and we need to just kind of move this out of the way a little bit. And can undo him out of the way, and see, this just pulls right up out of there. And there's our 2 little contacts on the back. And you can see the contact plate all around here. This one, it's really clean, so we're not going to have to do much to it. We'll just put a little dab of grease on it. Now when you're putting this back together, you have to make sure it's in the rest position right now, which is this big dude right here sticking out. So when we put him back on, we want to line that up, because there's a little finger sticking up off of that lever that rides all around on that groove, and that's what opens our switches. So I'll get this cleaned up. I'll clean our score reel, and I'll show you what it looks like after it's all cleaned up. This one's pretty clean, like I said, so there's not going to be much difference. But let me get you off of the stand here, and I'll show you one. See, like that one there. I don't know if you can, there we go. You can see the difference, how dirty that one is down there. And so we'll clean them all up as we take them apart and check everything, make sure everything's in working order. Put a little dab of grease on our shaft here. Let's see, and we'll clean those little contacts off a little bit. Make sure we don't have any residual old grease in there. We'll clean that out, and we'll see what we can do about freeing that up a little bit more. Okay, got our score reel all cleaned up. We cleaned up our little contact wheel here, and what we're going to do is, like I said, we're just going to put a little bit. You don't have to put a whole lot on there. You're not greasing a ball joint. And now we can slide him right back down on. Make sure our little fingers lined up. Pull our latch back. him right in the right position so he'll fall into place. There we go. And then he comes around. Uh-huh. Put our spring on and pick our other spring up off the floor. And there we go. Okay, make sure everything's lined up. Looks good. Clean up a couple of switches and we can put our score reel back on. Wasn't really prepared. I kind of leave stuff hanging all over the place. Clean him up. Come on. Open up. Open your mouth. Clean our bottom. If you watched me clean the score reels on our 76 Space Time, these ones are different. Even though it's a Bally, this is a 73 and that was a 76. They changed things, so even the score reels you have to watch. Now let's see if everything opens and closes. Open, open. Those two are open. Yep. Okay. Looks good. Now we'll line up our score reel. Remember the little notch? That's right there. Little finger. And we'll just get him set right down on there where he belongs. Yep, missed. Let's bring him around where we can see him. There he is. There's that little notch. There's the little finger right there. And we can put it right down right there. That made things easier, didn't it? You don't want to go too tight with these. These are just, you're just running steel screws into plastic, so you can strip them out very easily. Put a little clip, hairpin back on there. And we'll find it. And there we go. Slide him right back down onto his bracket. And that's one. Now I only have 15 more to go. So I'll stay busy and I'll get these cleaned up. There's a dirty one there. Look at that one. How nasty that thing is. I'll tear this one apart, clean it up, and I'll show you that reel after I get it cleaned. Okay, there's our score reel after I cleaned it up. But I wanted to show you something else. See, this machine's leaving us clues that there's a problem. See, our solenoid is all black. In other words, it's gotten really hot. And solenoid over here, that's the 100-point relay. And we come over here and guess what score reel that is? 100-point. So it's leaving us little clues, little breadcrumbs that there's a problem somewhere. I'm going to say it's on the playing field because that's normally you have a switch that's stuck, and that's what's going on. And when I was cleaning up the bottom board, I found this laying in there. Now this could be coincidence, or it could be something that's been changed and just happened to be still laying down there. So that means we're going to have to really check our 100-point relays, our 100-point switches, excuse me, on our play field. So it's just leaving us little crumbs pointing to, hey, look at me, I got too hot. Me too, I got too hot over here too. What are you? I'm the 100-point relay. I'm the 100-point score reel. Our buddy is stuck together. So we'll get after it, and when we get to the playing field, we're going to make sure all of our 100-point switches are good. Okay, now enough of this. Now I'll get this put back together, and I'll start working on more. Like I said, that'll be another one done, and now I only have 14 more to go. But we're on our way. Okay, we got everything all done, cleaned up. Finished up all the score reels, got them all cleaned up and ready to go. Shouldn't have any problems with them unless we have... I checked all the switches all look good. But, you know, you never know. You might have one too close, you might have one not close enough. We got all of our stepper units all done. Those are all cleaned and ready to go. The score unit, the credit unit, we put a new peg on it, so now we can go up to 25 games instead of 10. They had one on that was too long. Let's see, all of our 100,000 point interlock relays are all clean. We got our resets done, our 10, 100, and 1,000, those are all cleaned up. Our score resets, you can see I got that mess all squared away and straightened out. Got the wires where they belong. So now we should be able to reset, hopefully. Not going to say positive, but you know, hey, you never know. Jones plugs are done, the females. The only thing we have left on this is when we put it in is to change some light bulbs. Hopefully, cross your fingers. And then we can move forward. But it's going to be a little while before we get to put that in. We still got all the body work that I'm working on the cabinet. And bottom's done, ready to go. So the next episode, I think, is what we're going to do is we're going to put some legs on the cabinet so I can get the play field flipped over and start working on it and get everything all cleaned up on that. We'll see if that's what I want to do next or not. I'm not positive. If you like the video, hit the like button down there. Leave me a comment. Let me know how I'm doing if you want. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed, and I'll bring you some more of these cool pinball videos. So until next time, see ya.